Hi, today I want to talk about one of my very favorite wine regions, and that is Lodi. You've probably heard me mention that a time or two on the past videos, if you've watched the majority of them. Well, there's a reason I've been holding off on doing these videos, because I just recently came back from California, which is where Lodi is located. And I didn't want to talk about Lodi in a video until I had the opportunity to actually be there in person. So I have been there, I enjoyed it. I have a lot of other video from that trip that I'll be posting, and I'll have a link to the beginning of that at the end of this one. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the region of Lodi. Got a nice bottle of Lodi wine here. Lodi is known, get this poured out, for its Zinfandel. That's one of the key things. I mean, you talk about red Zinfandel, you think Lodi. At least I do, and a lot of people do. And it's there's a good reason for that. I got one here. It's just the amazing fragrance. Now, Lodi is located south of Sacramento in California, and I'll throw a map up there so you can get a better idea. It's kind of the top end, the north end of a big, major agricultural area that produces a lot of food for the U.S. and probably around the world. It's just a phenomenally huge growing area. But at the top end of it is where you find Lodi and grapes. Now, originally, well, not originally, but early days of Lodi, it was known more for its agricultural things, growing tomatoes and stuff like that, as well as a lot of orchard type trees. So at some point, they also planted grapes, and just probably at that time for their own personal use, prior to Prohibition, all this type of thing. There's a lot of grape planting going on in not only California, but across the country. So a lot of that was for personal use, maybe a little bit of commercial, but anyway, it's since then, and I'm not sure exactly when it took off, but it's produced grapes for a long time now, and has some of the best grapes, in my opinion, some of the best grapes in all of California. Now, Lodi does produce grapes for other parts of California. So if you see something that's labeled California wine, good chance a lot of the grapes were grown in Lodi. Can't say for sure, it depends on who made it, where they bought it, but there's a lot of outsourcing of the grapes from Lodi to other areas. Now, California law also allows for a percentage of the grapes to be from another area other than what it's labeled. So if it says this wine is the XYZ region, well, part of those grapes may come from another region, as long as the majority of them, it's either 75 or 85%, don't remember off the top of my head, but as long as the majority of them come from that region, then they can call it the XYZ region, whichever one that happens to be. So they don't always like to admit it, but a lot of the grapes do come from other regions, and in particular Lodi. All right, so let's take a look at this. Like I said, this is a red Zin. It's just amazing wine. Okay, now, what are the characteristics of Lodi? We've talked a little bit about the geography of it and where it's at, the geology. I mean, it's a very rich soil. It is very dry there. Part of the problem initially in California with using this region and its southern neighbors was the lack of water. Well, diverting rivers and pulling in irrigation allowed them to not only plant this stuff, but different, and I'm talking vegetable type things, not just grapes here, but it not only let them plant it, but of course get them to grow. They could water them and just have a very abundant production. So this has caused other issues in drought years, for example, where you don't have enough water to go around. It makes things difficult for everyone. Now, the nice thing about grapes is they actually do better when they're stressed. If you have a very rainy year, it really detracts from the wine. And this is worldwide, not just in Lodi. So when you have a drought condition or a near drought condition, as long as they get enough water to stay alive, then it kind of forces the grapes to work harder to produce even more concentrated flavor. So what occurs there is it makes the roots grow deeper looking for water, and as they grow deeper, they're pulling up more nutrients that feed the grapevines and ultimately go into the grapes. When there's a lack of water, a drought condition, that kind of, the grapes compensate by growing a thicker skin on the grape, not that thick of course, but thicker skin which conserves the water inside in the juice part, and it also then intensifies the flavor, because that's where the majority of flavor and color come from, is the skins. So drought conditions can, to a point, actually be very beneficial to a wine vintage. So anyway, Lodi is known in its wines for having a big, bold, upfront flavor. Now, even though they are dry wines, they're very fruit forward. Even in your driest wine, you take that sip of that wine and you just get a mouthful of fruit. Just wonderful, wonderful stuff. Now, along with that, because it is a very good wine producing or grape producing area, you also tend to get a lot of sugar in the juice. Now, what does sugar do? Well, sugar plus yeast gives you alcohol. This is what happens in fermentation. The yeast takes the sugar, converts it to alcohol, and you get an alcoholic beverage, in this case wine. So when you've got a lot of sugar, because you've got such an intense growing condition that produces a lot of sugar along with the flavor, then you get a very high alcohol content wine. This one, for example, let's see, what is it? I didn't look earlier. Couldn't see it on here. Oh yeah, there it is. This one is 15%. Now, this is not necessarily typical of all Lodi wines, but they do tend to run higher in alcohol than something comparable from a different area. A lot of wines I see are around 13.5%. Well, 15 is a good step above that. So you have to watch it when you're drinking those, because they can knock you on your butt pretty easy. So Lodi, I highly encourage anyone who can to make the trip there. And I will say something else. This is not so much about the wine, but the people. I was very impressed when I was there with the neighborliness of the area. I was traveling with some friends, and we went to a number of wineries, and it's like, oh, well, glad you stopped in, and here, try this, and blah, 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 and going through the tastings, and getting ready to leave, and say, oh, where are you going to next? Or if we got there, where have you been? How long have you been in Lodi? First day, second day, third day, whatever it was. Where have you been? Oh, we've been to this one, this one. Oh, yeah, those are great places. I like them myself. Now, this is coming from people who are working in their own vineyard, or working for someone else in their vineyard, the winery. But they're still saying, yeah, I like the one down the road there or across the valley. And they're good people. They're very nice. They're speaking highly of their competitors. Now, I don't think they really view them as competitors. They're kind of like one giant family. I mean, not literally blood family, but they all look out for each other. And that's a good thing to have. When you're drinking the wine and you know that background, it really, really makes you feel better about drinking the wine. It's not like, oh, they're just out to get their own profit and that's it, and they don't care about anybody else. That's not the case in Lodi. Very, very friendly place. They presented the wine for us, and the number of places we went to, and it was just exceptional. We had such a good time. It's like, how is today going to be topped by anything after this? And then, sure enough, it was. One place would do this for us, the next place would do something entirely different, but we're just equally impressed. Walk in just off the street even, and you're treated just like you're coming home from just a long-lost cousin or something coming home again. So I can't say enough good things about Lodi, especially their wine, but can't leave out the people. People make the wine, and really that's what it's all about. So if you haven't tried Lodi wine before, give it a good try. In fact, I refer to Lodi Red Zen, and this one in particular, and I'll talk about that more in another video, but I refer to that as my gateway red. You run across people, oh, I don't like red wines. I just like the sweet white wines. It's like, oh, come on, give them a try. Give them a Lodi Red Zinfandel. That will change their mind. And I've just been amazed at how many people will start drinking this and they move right on to every other red after that. So anyway, enjoy Lodi wine. If you haven't tried it, definitely get some, and cheers. When you're talking Argentina wine, you can be talking a number of different varietals, but there are a couple signature ones. Well, one in particular. Now, Argentina is probably best known for its Malbec.